My name is Keli, and I'm a member of the Global Greens, the Asia Pacific Greens Federation, and Green Party Taiwan. And I believe that climate change is about our choices. We're now living at a very critical time, where what we decide between now and 2020 will determine how either miserable or prosperous our future will be. We now know that human activities like burning fossil fuels is driving global climate change. And we're also facing very serious social justice challenges, like how do we hold accountable those who are emitting emissions into the atmosphere? And how do we take care of those who are affected by the harshest impacts of climate change now and into the future? And moreover, how do we deal with the things that we value being put at risk? Risks like our health, where as there's flooding, then so comes malaria and other diseases. Food security will be affected as agricultural production and prices fluctuate. Our clean water will be affected as climate change brings drought or the salinization of our fresh water sources. And our cities and communities will be affected as people are forced to migrate and leave because of climate changes. Or our cities are unable to provide its regular services like sanitation and access to food and energy and health, our hospitals, or jobs even for that matter. On top of all this, our global population is expected to rise from our current 7 billion to 9 billion in 2050. How are we going to provide sufficient food, water, and energy to an additional 2 billion people when we're not doing that very well to our 7 billion right now? You see, vulnerability to climate change is caused by our choices, which has changed the environment. But our decisions will be what matters in terms of how do we adapt to the effects of climate change. The good news is that we are not passive recipients of disaster. We are actually very much empowered to create the kind of future that we want. So, what are the choices that we're faced with? On one hand, we could continue as usual, and that's predicted to bring us an increase of 4 degrees Celsius, which will create temperatures that nobody really wants to experience, as well as cause the loss of many livelihoods. Or we could choose a sustainable future, which is based on creativity, and I find that one a lot more exciting and interesting. Imagine, for example, our cities and the buildings that we live in. Right now, 70% of global gashouse emissions comes from cities, and 80% of the world lives in cities. So imagine buildings that no longer need to import energy to run, which creates a lot of waste and carbon footprint. But imagine buildings that generate their own energy in a sustainable way that does not produce any waste. You see, by focusing on a sustainable future right now and by making these decisions to address climate change now, we could have a much more increased food, water, and energy security. We can also contribute to more economic stability, improved well-being and health, as well as completely new jobs from very new sectors, as well as safeguarding our natural resources for future generations. So, what's it going to take to get us there? Well, we need to have an accelerated climate change agreement from grassroots up to government. Globally, governments have already agreed to create a universal climate change agreement through the UNFCCC meetings, which will be held in Lima, Peru this December 2014, and again in Paris in 2015. National governments will need to support a green economy and green energy through technology transfer and financing, so that we can build a future based on a development model that's not like the fossil fuel-driven model in the past, which got us these problems in the first place. Civil society, moreover, is very important because every person in civil society has power. Every decision you make, be it a conversation or your choice as a consumer, sends a signal about what kind of future you want. As a citizen, every vote that you make determines what type of decisions you want this future to have. So the good news is that nobody is powerless in the face of these planetary boundaries. We just have to choose to focus on sustainability right now. And as for us Greens, it's up to us to lead. Our task is to get everybody excited about this sustainable future, all parts of society. And so that means, first, supporting the development of an effective international agreement on climate change. Then having the policies from our villages on up to our governments, which implement these agreements and go even further in their local application. Also, it's really important that we communicate what this choice is to everybody. We've got to have more people who have awareness and understanding and action about what it will take to mitigate and adapt to climate change. Because it is happening and it will intensify. So my call to action for everyone is to lead and take action by learning more about climate change, communicating what you've learned to other people, and then taking action on a sustainable future in whatever way you can.